Okay, so before we start, you see what I've got here. I've got Taiwanese minced pork sauce over rice, and I've got Taiwanese noodle with meat sauce recipe. So basically, what I'm after is the Taiwanese meat sauce. So you see, these are the ingredients for this recipe, and I'll go through it, right? And then these are the ingredients for this recipe, and everything in the middle is common between the two. So you see, the two recipes are different. Now, you see I've got Kikkoman soy sauce here. We're not using that because I believe that is a Japanese flavor, and we're going to use the more traditional Chinese flavors. So we're going to use Chinese 5-spice. We'll use some of this la choy. We'll use this dark soy sauce, right? And maybe some of this black soy sauce. Now, what's interesting is this recipe calls for these fried shallots that you crush up into a powder. And it calls for some cooking wine, and I picked up a nice, cooking wine from the Asian market. My mortar and pestle is going to be how I'm going to grind up those shallots. Whereas this recipe calls for shiitake mushrooms, bamboo shoots, and this black vinegar, which I've never seen before. And then onion and garlic that are fresh. This one has the star anise. So the goal here is, and of course they both have sugar. One has brown sugar, the other one has regular sugar, but I'll probably use brown sugar for both. So the goal here is, there used to be a restaurant in Teaneck, New Jersey called the Taipei Noodle Shop. So they had this meat sauce that they would serve with a pork chop over rice. And that meat sauce was, very distinctive, very different. We couldn't find it anyplace else. Sadly, that restaurant went out of business. So now I'm on a quest to replicate that flavor. I don't know which of these recipes is going to more closely resemble the flavor that I remember from that restaurant. And again, since I've never been to Taiwan, I don't know what the real true flavor is supposed to be like, but my goal is to mimic what they served at the Taipei Noodle Shop. So that's the beginning of this. I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to start getting everything prepped so that I can cook them side by side. I'm going to do half the rest. Each one calls for a pound of pork. I'm going to do a half pound of pork. I'm going to divide each recipe 100% in half. And then later on, after it's all cooked, we're going to taste it and see which one we like better. And hopefully we like one of them. Or it might be a total bust and we hate them both and have to throw it away. Who knows? So wish me luck. Okay, so recipe number 1 uses the fried shallots. And what I'm going to do is I'm taking half the pork. I have a pound of pork. I'm going to put a little bit, you like my little mini wok? A little mini wok that I had in the back that is going to be perfect for this because I'm doing half the recipe. So I'm just going to brown this. That's it. And you know what I might do while the pork is browning? There's no reason why I couldn't start the other one, because that one requires that I saute the shallots. So maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll take this pork, throw it on that burner there, and let's get the shallots going on the front burner. So here's my other little mini wok. And a little bit of oil in there. And let's get those shallots going. I think it called for onion. I happen to have a shallot in the house, so that's what we're going to use. So let's get those shallots sauteed. And this one has the shiitake mushrooms and the bamboo shoots. So I mean, they've got very different ingredients. And I don't need to be filming this the whole time, so I'm going to just cut it and wait till we have something exciting to see. Alrighty, so I'm following the recipe to the T. You see, I've got my other one on the back burner over there. It's not the back burner, that's the hotter burner. These shallots are taking on some color, and now it's time to add the pork. And I'm going to mix the pork in with that and get that pork kind of brown. And it seems like the timings on this recipe and the white wok are very short. I think they're unrealistically short because I really want to get this pork brown before I get the garlic in there. I don't want to overcook the garlic. So, yeah, I think the time sequences that they recommend in the recipe are a little bit unrealistic. But, you know, I'm following it the best I can, given the desired output. Right, so this one's looking good. This one's almost ready for the next step. And it's pausing time. Okay, it is step 2 time on this one. So here I'm going to put in the water. Okay. And then I'm going to put in the dry ingredients and the other wet ingredients, and then that has to just simmer. Wow, that dark soy sauce is thick. So that just needs to simmer now. So I'm going to give it a stir. Wow, maybe I should have used a deeper pot because I'm a clumsy guy and that's going to spill. But that's okay. I'll get it up to the boil and then I'm going to throw it on the back burner and get it simmering. Meantime, this guy's not ready yet. That pork is not quite brown yet. The one on this burner, I have to cook that for maybe a half an hour before the next step. So that means it'll take significantly longer than this one. Okay, it is time for the next step. So I'm just going to push everything aside, throw in that garlic, let that garlic release its aromas, and then we're going to throw in the bamboo shoots and the mushrooms. And here they go. All right, bamboo shoots and the shiitake mushrooms. This one's got a lot more different ingredients. And I'm sure I want those mushrooms to cook down. So this already doesn't make sense to me because it's pretty dry. And I think I'm pretty sure I'm not going to want those mushrooms to be rawish. So I don't know. Doesn't seem right to me. But we'll follow it. Okay, so I'm going to throw in now the rest of the ingredients. Those are the dry. This calls for a lot less soy sauce than the other one. And it's got that vinegar, the dark brown vinegar, which I've never seen before. It's called black vinegar. And then it's a shame, but that's just a tiny little bit of chicken stock. It should have been a half a cup of chicken stock, but I cut the recipe in half. Which is a quarter cup of chicken stock, which is kind of strange. I see the color coming out. Oh, I just dropped a piece, huh? See the color coming out. And this gets cooked for another couple of minutes. And then this one's essentially done. Whereas the other one is going to take another hour. So, but we'll taste them together when they're both done. So, another few minutes for this, and this one's done. Alrighty, so this one's done, and this one's got maybe another hour to go. So, but we're going to eat them together, and I'm going to make some nice pork chops to go with it over rice. And I know already that it's not like the Taipei noodle shop. It's a different sauce. It's a very good sauce, but it's a different sauce. I don't know what that sauce is that they did. I wish I could talk to her. Okay, so my timer went off. Now what you see here is my mortar and pestle, and I've got a half a cup, because that's half the recipe, of the fried crispy shallots. The time is up. I'm going to dump them right into that pot and stir it up. And I guess that's going to thicken it somewhat. And now that's going to simmer for another 20 minutes. And after that, I might add a little bit of cornstarch to it to thicken it a little more. I might not. We'll see. Alrighty, I'll put a little more light on the subject. And okay, so before I begin and continue and everything else, I want to show you, this is the recipe that, you see the steam coming off. This is the recipe that contained the water chestnuts and the shiitake mushrooms and the garlic. And the only critique I have about this particular recipe is that some of the cooking times were a little bit off, but I think that's very common among many recipes that you find. And I also want to say that the Taipei noodle shop that I so sadly miss did serve a dish over noodles with a sauce very similar to this. However, the sauce that I was looking for was actually the other sauce. So I'm very happy I did them both, because now I have two new recipes in my repertoire. And this was quite delicious also. I cannot say enough great things about this recipe, but the other one is what I was really looking for. Alrighty, so of the two sauces, the one that has the fried shallots that's ground up most closely resembles the one from the Taipei noodle shop. Now, I will say I had to do a couple of things to adjust it. Number one, it reduced a lot, and then it became very salty. So what I did was I added more water, and then I thickened it with a little bit of cornstarch, and that took away a lot of the salty flavor. The color is a little bit off, but the flavor is pretty much what I remember of that sauce at the Taipei noodle shop in Teaneck. I think the next time I'm going to omit the dark soy sauce from this one, and I'm just going to include the regular soy sauce. I might even attempt this dish with the Kikkoman soy sauce and see how that changes the flavor.